Hey, what's going on, family? How y'all feeling today? Well, sweetheart, if your name is Offset, and I mean the Offset who spent years running her name through every mud puddle from Atlanta to the Bronx and back again, I need you to sit down somewhere quiet, take a deep breath, pour yourself something strong, and prepare yourself for what I'm about to walk you through. Because she just did the one thing you were praying she'd never do. She went home. She went all the way home. Cardi B danced in the rain on the block that raised her, in front of the concrete that remembers her name before anybody ever put her on a magazine cover. And she did it with a smile so wide it looked like a woman waking up from a very long, very expensive nightmare. And honey, that nightmare had your face on it. That nightmare had your name on the deed. That nightmare had your text messages on the receipts. And her just woke up laughing. Now hear me out, because I already know what some of y'all are typing in the comments before I even finish this sentence. Tisa, she's just dancing. She's promoting her hairline. This is not that deep. You're reaching, you're a hater. You're doing too much. Sweetheart, no. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to close TikTok, put the phone down, and listen with your entire chest. This is deeper than the Hudson River in February. This is deeper than any court filing you're going to see this year. The rapper doesn't do anything by accident. The Bronx star is a marketing genius disguised as a Bronx girl who curses in interviews, and when a marketing genius takes cameras back to the exact block she grew up on, and she stands in the rain, and she lets her daughter's hair fall wild and free and unprocessed for the entire world to see, that is not a coincidence. That is not a happy accident. That is not a spur-of-the-moment decision. That is a statement. That is a receipt. That's real. That's receipts. That's record. Let me set the scene for you, because you need to understand what actually happened in the Bronx this week before we start drawing conclusions. The rapper pulled up to the neighborhood. Not a rented block. Not a soundstage in Brooklyn dressed up to look like the Bronx. Not a curated backdrop with a fake bodega sign hanging in the window. The actual streets, the actual bodegas, the actual grandmothers watching from third-floor windows with rollers still in their hair and a phone pressed to their ear telling their cousin in Yonkers to turn on the news. Cardi B brought culture. She brought her cousins. The rapper brought cameras, yes, but she also brought something you cannot fake and you cannot manufacture and you certainly cannot buy from any publicist on the planet, and that something is called peace. And the moment a woman finds peace after a marriage like the one she just walked away from, buckle in, because everything she does next is going to hit like a freight train with no brakes and no conductor and no interest in stopping for anybody's feelings. Now let me give you the full picture, because I don't want anybody in the comments accusing me of leaving things out or shading the story to make one side look worse than it is. She and Offset finalized their divorce. That is not a rumor. That is not a blog post. That is not a sources close to the couple leak from a group chat. That is a signed, sealed, filed in Fulton County piece of paper, and reports have been circulating for months now that Offset allegedly turned down a $10 million settlement offer. $10 million, y'all. Say it with me. $10 million. And he said no. He said no to $10 million from a woman who could have written him a check and moved on with her life and forgotten his phone number by Christmas, and instead this man decided he wanted more. Sweetheart, no. Ma'am, sit down. I mean, sir, sit down. Because that decision, that greedy, arrogant, ego-driven, self-sabotaging decision to reach for more than what was offered, is the exact reason Cardi B is now dancing in the Bronx rain instead of crying in a mansion in Atlanta. She has been reborn, and she said that herself in her own words in her own interview with her own mouth. The Bronx star told the world she feels like a new person, and when I tell you a woman who has been through what the Bronx star has been through publicly says she feels like a new person, understand something clearly. That is not a phrase. That is not a soundbite. That is a warning shot fired directly across the bow of every man who ever thought he could break her. Here's the wrinkle nobody else on the internet is catching, and this is where the deep dive begins for real. She didn't just show up in the Bronx to promote her hair company, Grow Good Beauty. She showed up with a message, and the message was written into every single frame of that footage in language so clear that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Look at what Cardi B said on camera, and I'm paraphrasing here because the video is out there for everybody to see with their own eyes. She said she doesn't put blur on her daughter's hair. She said her daughter's hair came back crispy from all that sun. She said, and I want you to hear this clearly, we going to restore that. Restore. Say it slowly. Restore. That is not a hair care word. That is not a marketing slogan. That is a survivor word. That is a therapy word. That is the exact word a woman uses when she is coming out of something that tried to break her. She is standing on the block that raised her, holding her child, telling the entire world watching that she is restoring what somebody else damaged. Now, who do you think she is talking about? Who? Because I promise you she is not writing an essay about split ends. Cardi B is writing a public divorce statement using conditioner as the metaphor, and honey, that is the kind of stealth check that only Bronx women know how to write with a straight face. Circle back with me for a second, because there are people in the comments right now typing furiously about how I'm reading too much into it, how I'm projecting, how I'm making it about something it's not. Anointed by nobody, y'all are so close to the answer. You are almost there. You are in the remedial reading circle, and you are seconds away from graduating. Because if the Bronx Star was just promoting hair care, she wouldn't have brought the cousins. The Bronx Star wouldn't have brought the tacos. She wouldn't have said, and I quote directly from the footage, "You can't pull up on me because what you gonna take? I don't got nothing. Look, these earrings are fake. No jewelry on me. No nothing. These are like $50. Sweetheart. 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 A woman worth what the Bronx Star is worth. A woman with the streaming numbers Cardi B has. A woman with the endorsement portfolio she carries, stood on a Bronx corner in the pouring rain and told the entire world that she has $50 earrings on. Why? Why would she do that? Because she is signaling something. The rapper is signaling that she does not need the diamonds anymore. She is signaling that the trappings of the marriage, the co-signed lifestyle, the his and hers wealth performance, the couples in matching outfits Instagram feed, all of it is gone. The rapper is stripped down to the version of herself that existed before Offset ever knew her name, before Offset ever slid into her DMs, before Offset ever put a ring on her finger, and that version is dangerous. That version wrote Bodak Yellow. That version turned a stripper card into a Grammy. And that version is back on the block, in the rain, with $50 earrings and a smile that could power the Bronx electrical grid for a decade. Now moving right along, folks, let me tell you what really pushed Cardi B to this moment, because you need the full timeline laid out cleanly before we go any deeper. She first filed for divorce from Offset back in 2020. That was attempt number 1. That was the first swing. That was she saying I've had enough, and then, like a lot of women in a lot of marriages, she went back. She tried again. The rapper had another child. Cardi B put in the work. She did the couples therapy and the private conversations and the public forgiveness that came with more receipts than a CVS at Christmas. And in 2024, the Bronx Star filed again, and this time she meant it. She meant every syllable. The Bronx Star didn't take it back. Cardi B didn't hesitate. And now in 2026, we are watching the aftermath, and the aftermath is not a woman in mourning. The aftermath is a woman in a music video, on her own block, filming for her own album, promoting her own beauty line, holding her own baby, and cashing her own checks. She is not asking anybody for permission anymore. She is issuing statements through choreography. She is issuing statements through wardrobe. She is issuing statements through location scouting. And every time the Grammy winner twirls in that rain, another one of Offset's excuses evaporates into the humidity. Hear me out, because there's more. Cardi B has a new man. His name has been floating around the blogs for months now. And the moment the rapper introduced this new man to the world, the internet did what the internet always does. The internet went digging. The internet went hunting. The internet went excavating like it was searching for buried treasure with a metal detector at 3 in the morning. And what came back was not what she wanted anybody to see. Reports have circulated about her new partner's past, DUI paperwork, custody drama, allegations that would make any publicist reach for the aspirin and a lawyer at the same time. But here's the wrinkle. She is not scared. She is not hiding him. She is not doing the Beyoncé secret relationship dance where you don't confirm anything for 18 months and let the tabloids guess. Cardi B is walking him out into the open air, letting the cameras catch him, letting the tabloids write their headlines, letting the blogs run their think pieces, and the rapper is doing it with the same energy she brought to her Bronx block. Take me as I am. Or don't take me at all. That's real. That's receipts. That's record. Now let me tell you something about she that people forget when they try to write her off. She told us who she was from day one. The rapper never sold you a princess narrative. Cardi B never pretended to be Michelle Obama. The rapper never tried to convince you she was anybody other than a Bronx girl who got lucky, worked hard, and refused to let anybody file down her edges. The Bronx Star stood in front of a camera on Love and Hip Hop Back when nobody was checking for her, and she said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that a man could be in a coma and she would still not call another man behind her partner's back. She told us she'd finish surgery on anesthesia before she'd bend on her principles. She told us she could be drunk, she could be high, she could be lying in a hospital bed, and she would still not compromise on what she believed. Cardi B has always been consistent about her spine. And the reason this divorce hits different, the reason it lands with such catastrophic force on Offset's public reputation, is because she is not the one who changed. Offset is the one who bet against the wrong woman. Let me tell you what a lot of the commentary channels are missing about this Bronx moment, because they're focused on the drama and they're missing the strategy. She just launched Grow Good Beauty. That's her hair care line. That's her business. That's her legacy vehicle. That's the thing that is going to be paying her grandkids tuition long after the streaming royalties dry up. And what does a smart businesswoman do the week her brand launches? She takes the cameras to the emotional epicenter of her fan base. The Bronx star did not just go to the Bronx for nostalgia. She went to the Bronx because the Bronx is her authentication protocol. Every product Cardi B releases has to pass the Bronx test, and the Bronx test is simple. Can the girls on the block use it? Will the girls on the block believe in it? Will the girls on the block post it on their story with the fire emoji 3 times in a row? And the answer this week was a resounding, deafening, sidewalk-shaking yes. There were actual reports of fans dancing on NYPD cars for this woman. On NYPD cars, y'all. In broad daylight. In the rain. That is not a marketing rollout. That is a coronation. That is a queen returning home to her kingdom, and the peasants have set aside their differences and their traffic laws to greet her. Now foaming at the mouth for the receipts, aren't you? Roll with me, because I want to lay out exactly why this footage is a divorce weapon and not just a marketing moment. Look at her face when she's dancing in the rain. Look at the freedom in her body language. Look at how she's holding her daughter. Look at how she's laughing with her cousins. Look at how she's making eye contact with the camera. Now compare that to any footage you have of the Grammy winner during the last 2 years of that marriage. Compare it to the hospital room footage where she was airing out grievances from a delivery bed. Compare it to the tearful Instagram lives where she looked like she'd been crying for a week straight. Compare it to the paparazzi shots where this woman looked exhausted, tired, medicated by the weight of a marriage that took more than it gave. Now put those 2 versions of Cardi B side by side. That, honey, is what reborn looks like. That's not a metaphor. That's not a marketing slogan. That's not a hashtag. That's a before and after photo, and the after photo has been retouched by nothing but freedom. Here's the wrinkle that Offset is absolutely losing sleep over as we speak. The Bronx star has always been the more emotionally expressive one of the pair. The rapper is the one who cries on camera. She is the one who curses at her enemies on Instagram Live. She is the one who wears her heart on the outside of her body like it's a designer accessory. So when the Bronx star goes quiet, when Cardi B stops posting about the pain, when she starts dancing in the rain instead of ranting into her phone at 2 in the morning, sweetheart, that is the loudest thing she has ever done. Silence from a woman like she is not peace. Silence from a woman like she is not resignation. Silence from a woman like she is a strategy. And Offset should be checking his phone right now, because whatever comes next is going to make the last 5 years of tabloid drama look like a warm-up act. Whatever comes next is going to make everybody who bet against her wish they had stayed neutral. Now let me address the elephant in the room, because I know some of y'all are going to bring it up in the comments if I don't get to it first. Yes, there are court documents. Yes, there was a request from Offset for a DNA test on the newborn. Yes, that request was denied by a judge. Let me repeat that for the people in the back row of the remedial reading circle. A judge denied Offset's request for a DNA test on Cardi B's newborn. That is not a footnote. That is not a technicality. That is not a small detail. That is a headline. That is a judge looking at a piece of paper and telling a grown man to go home and think about what he's doing. And this woman, throughout that entire humiliating public process, said nothing. The Bronx star did not go on Instagram Live. She did not go on the record. The rapper did not send her manager to any blog. Cardi B let the paperwork do the talking. And now, months later, the Bronx star is dancing in the Bronx rain with the exact same child at her hip who is the subject of that paperwork. That's a mic drop written in weather. That's a victory lap in real time. That's what winning looks like when winning is quiet. Roll with me a little further, because we haven't even gotten to the part about the neighborhood itself, and this is where the symbolism starts stacking. The Bronx star did not pick any old block. She picked the block where her grandmother lived. She said on camera, and this is a direct paraphrase from the footage, that they were going to get some tacos and then head to Grandma's house. Grandma. When a grown woman with a private jet and a Miami mansion and a Beverly Hills glam team says the words "Grandma's house" on camera in the rain in the Bronx, that is a message to every fan she ever had. She is saying, I am still her. I am still the girl. I am still yours. I am still the woman who grew up eating from that bodega, who took the train to school in the mornings, who watched her grandma stretch a chicken across 4 meals. Cardi B is telling every fan in every borough that fame did not eat her, that money did not change her, that a divorce did not diminish her. And that message is worth more than any $10 million settlement Offset was ever going to see, because that message pays dividends for the rest of her career. Now hear me out on the hair, because I want to circle back to the hair, because the hair is the thesis statement of this entire performance. She said her daughter's hair came back crispy from the sun. She said she does not blur her daughter's hair. The Bronx star said, "We going to restore that." And then the rapper stood in the rain and let the water fall on both of their heads without an umbrella, without a hood, without a scarf. Rain, y'all. Water. Cleansing. Baptism. She literally staged a baptism on the block that raised her, with a child that a judge just protected, on the week her beauty brand launched. Do you understand the layered symbolism here? Do you understand that this is not accidental? Cardi B is telling you that she is washing off the last 5 years. She is telling you that she is restoring what a bad marriage tried to take. The Bronx star is telling you that the next chapter is going to be written by her on her block, in her own words, with her own conditioner. Blessed by delusion, Offset, if you thought you were going to control this narrative from Atlanta. Now let me address the Cardi haters, because I know some of you are in the comments right now typing, "She's crazy, she's playing the victim, she's toxic too, she started it." Roll with me. The Bronx star has never claimed to be a saint. The Bronx star has been the first person to admit her own mess in every interview she's ever done. Cardi B has said, on the record, on multiple occasions, in front of multiple cameras, that she has done things she is not proud of. What she has also done consistently, and this is where the divergence sits, is take accountability. The Bronx star apologizes. She publicly reflects. She pays her debts, both financial and emotional. And what a certain other person in this story has not done at any point across a decade of documented public behavior is take accountability. So while you're in the comments trying to draw an equivalence, understand that accountability is the dividing line between a woman who dances in the rain with her daughter and a man who turns down $10 million because his ego wrote a check his lawyer couldn't cash and his publicist couldn't spin. Here's the wrinkle that's going to keep you up tonight if you let it. There are reports circulating that Offset has been reaching out. Reaching out through mutuals. Reaching out through blog posts. Reaching out through carefully staged appearances at industry events where he knows the cameras will catch him and the flashbulbs will find him. And her response? Silence. A trip to the Bronx. A dance in the rain. A new man on her arm. A hairline on the shelves. A daughter with restored curls. Sweetheart, when a woman answers your outreach with a full public rebrand, that is not indifference. That is not passive. That is a eulogy. Offset is being eulogized in real time by a woman who used to cry over him in parking lots, and the entire world is watching it happen in slow motion, in high definition, with a Grow Good Beauty logo in the corner of the screen and a Bronx bodega awning in the background. Now let me get into what this means for the culture at large, because Cardi B is not just doing this for herself in some individual empowerment vacuum. She is modeling something for an entire generation of women who watched their mamas stay in marriages that were slowly killing them. She is showing them that you can leave. She is showing them that you can leave with the kids. The Bronx star is showing them that you can leave with the money. She is showing them that you can leave with your dignity, your daughter's curls, your grandmother's block, and a hair care line all in one Tuesday afternoon. That's not a divorce. That's a masterclass in reinvention. That's a syllabus. That's a curriculum every woman watching that Bronx footage this week is taking notes on. And Cardi B did not have to write a book to teach it. The Bronx star just had to show up and dance in the rain, and the lesson was delivered. Roll with me on this next part, because I want to talk about the Stefan situation for a minute, because her name has been tangled up in that mess for months. And I know some of y'all are wondering how that plays into this Bronx moment. Let me be clear. She has been dragged, unfairly in my opinion, into a court case involving another man that has absolutely nothing to do with her hair, her block, her daughter, or her divorce from Offset. And she has been carrying all of it on her back. Cardi B has been catching arrows from the Offset camp, arrows from the Stefan camp, arrows from the blogs, arrows from the stands, arrows from the podcasters, arrows from the reaction channels. And instead of collapsing under the weight of it, she did what Bronx women do. She put on a red dress, or a wet dress, or a hair care branded dress, and she went home. That is resilience wearing lip gloss. That is trauma wearing a bodega chain. That is her, and honey, the algorithm is going to reward her for it because the algorithm rewards authenticity, and there is nothing more authentic than a woman standing on her home block in the rain saying the words, "Restore that," while a camera records her daughter's real, unedited, unfiltered curls. Now let me tell you something that might make some of you uncomfortable, because comfort is not the goal of this channel. She is currently in the strongest era of her career, and she just got out of a marriage. Read that sentence again. Say it out loud in the mirror. A woman who has been publicly humiliated, dragged through custody paperwork, sued and countersued, tabloid fodder for half a decade, is currently at the top of her game professionally. She has a new album on the way. She has a new business launching. She has a new man. She has custody. She has her hair back. She has her block. And she has silence, the kind of silence that used to be the loudest thing in the room when she was still married. If that is not a testimony to what happens when a woman finally chooses herself, I don't know what is. If that is not a case study in what leaving does for a career, I don't know what one would look like. Hear me out on the money for a second, because the $10 million rumor is something we have to sit with as a culture. Multiple outlets have reported that Offset allegedly turned down a $10 million settlement offer from Cardi B. Now, if that report is accurate, and I want to be careful here because I have not personally seen the paperwork with my own eyes, that is one of the most catastrophic financial decisions in modern celebrity divorce history. $10 million for a rapper whose solo numbers have not been what they used to be, whose touring has cooled off, whose visibility outside of her name has faded to a whisper, whose brand deals have thinned out, is not just a settlement. That is a lifeline. That is a life preserver being thrown from a helicopter to a man who is currently treading water in the middle of the Atlantic. And to turn it down because you think you deserve more? Sweetheart. Ma'am. Sir. That's the kind of miscalculation that turns into a documentary in 15 years. That's the kind of miscalculation that ends up in a Netflix limited series with dramatic reenactments and a Grammy-nominated theme song. That's the kind of miscalculation that has Bronx grandmothers shaking their heads from third-floor windows and saying, he really did that to himself over a plate of Eras con habituelas. Circle back with me, because I want to make sure everybody's caught up on the timeline before we start closing the loops on this one. She and Offset married in 2017. The Bronx star filed for divorce in 2020. Her rescinded and went back. She and Offset had more children, Wave and Blossom, in addition to their firstborn Culture. Cardi B filed for divorce again in 2024. The divorce was ultimately finalized. A judge denied Offset's request for a DNA test on the newborn in February of this year, 2026. The Bronx star publicly stated she felt reborn in follow-up interviews. She introduced a new partner to the world. The rapper launched Grow Good Beauty. She returned to the Bronx for a pop-up. Cardi B danced in the rain. She talked about her daughter's hair. She said, "I got you." And here we are. That is not a downward spiral. That is a woman running a checklist. That is a woman with a 5-year plan being executed on schedule and under budget. And she is not done. Not even close. Now let me tell you what I think is coming next, because based on the pattern I have watched she run for the last decade, this Bronx moment is a prologue. This is not the climax. This is the setup. This is chapter 1 of a book that is going to be studied in cultural studies programs a decade from now. She is telling us the next album is going to touch on this. The Bronx star is telling us the next set of music videos is going to be shot on that same block. Cardi B is telling us that the next era of her career is going to be built on the foundation of the exact neighborhood a lot of her critics tried to shame her for. And when that album drops, when those visuals hit, when the streaming numbers start rolling in like a tsunami crashing against a rocky coast, every single person who bet against she in this divorce is going to be sitting in silence, listening to their radio, hearing her voice on every station, and wondering how they ever thought she was going to lose. Every single blog that ran a negative headline is going to be scrubbing archives. Every single podcast host who bet against her is going to be pretending they were on her side the whole time. Now foaming at the mouth for the ending, aren't you? Roll with me for the last piece, because there is one detail from that Bronx footage that nobody is talking about, and it might be the most important detail of all. When she was in the rain, when the cameras were rolling, when the neighborhood was around her, when the wet asphalt was reflecting the streetlights and the umbrellas were being ignored, the rapper said the words, "I got you. I got you." Say it out loud. I got you. Now who is she talking to? Was she talking to her daughter? Was she talking to her fans? Was she talking to the block itself? Was she talking to the version of herself that lived on that block before the fame, before the money, before the marriage that took so much? Or was she talking to all of them at once, in a moment of layered address that only a truly gifted communicator could pull off? Because that is the mark of a real Bronx woman. She can say 3 words and mean 30 things. She can dance in the rain and give a State of the Union address at the same time. Cardi B can hold her daughter and rewrite her entire legacy in a single afternoon. And any man who thought he was going to break her needs to log off, sit down, put down his phone, and take a very long look at that footage. Because she is not broken. She is not broken. She is baptized. Let me leave you with this, and then I want to hear from you in the comments before I go. Every marriage that ends in the public eye ends with a story, and the person who controls the story controls the era that follows. For the last 5 years, the story about she and Offset was being told by everybody except Cardi B. It was being told by blogs. It was being told by Offset's camp. It was being told by tabloids. It was being told by anonymous sources close to the couple who had never actually been close to the couple. And this woman, throughout most of it, was reactive. She was on defense. She was cleaning up messes she did not make. She was answering questions she should never have had to answer. But this week, in the Bronx, in the rain, in her grandmother's neighborhood, on the block that watched her grow up before it watched her grow famous, she took the pen back. Cardi B took the microphone back. She took the narrative back. The Bronx star is writing the next chapter herself, and the first sentence of that chapter is a woman in $50 earrings dancing with her daughter on the block that raised her, in the rain, laughing. Now I want to say one more thing before I let you go, because this is important. If you are a woman watching this, if you are a woman who is currently in a marriage that is taking more from you than it is giving you, if you are a woman who is scared to leave because you think you're going to lose everything, look at she. Study she. Take notes on the Bronx star. Because Cardi B was in the worst possible position a woman could be in, married to a famous man, with 3 children, with a public profile, with millions of dollars on the line, and she still left. Her still filed. She still walked. She still went home. And look at Cardi B now. Look at the peace on her face. Look at the freedom in her walk. Look at the way her daughter's hair falls in the rain. That is what the other side of a bad marriage looks like when you have the courage to cross it. That is what she is teaching without saying a single word of a lecture. And one last thing about the Bronx, because I have to say it. The Bronx did not just accept she back. The Bronx claimed her. The Bronx wrapped her up. The Bronx danced on NYPD cars for her. The Bronx handed her babies to kiss and grandmothers to hug and cousins to laugh with. Because the Bronx knew, before the rest of us knew, that this was a homecoming. This was not a promotional stop. This was not a marketing swing. This was a daughter of the borough coming back to be recharged by the streets that made her, and the streets showed up because the streets always show up for their own. And that is why every time she releases something for the next 5 years, the Bronx is going to be behind it. The Bronx is going to promote it, buy it, defend it, and dance to it. Because the rapper did not forget where she came from, and the Bronx does not forget the ones who don't forget. Now let me pull the camera back for a second and give you the panoramic view, because I want to make sure everybody watching understands the full scale of what just happened this week in the Bronx. She did not stumble into this moment. Cardi B did not accidentally end up on that block in the rain with a camera crew and a daughter and a smile. Her engineered this moment with the precision of a woman who has been quietly planning her entire career pivot for 18 months, while everybody else was busy arguing about her personal life. She knew exactly which block. She knew exactly which outfit. She knew exactly which words to say and which words to leave hanging in the air for the internet to unpack. And that, sweetheart, is the difference between a celebrity and a strategist. She is not a celebrity anymore. Cardi B has evolved into something more dangerous. The rapper is a strategist with a Grammy, a Bronx passport, and a very long memory. Circle back with me one more time, because I want to talk about the industry response, because the industry response has been telling. Notice which rappers have posted about she this week. Notice which industry figures have shown up in her comments. Notice which fashion brands have suddenly discovered her again. Notice which magazines are pitching cover stories. Because the industry, honey, is a weather vane. The industry does not commit to anyone until the industry knows which way the wind is blowing. And the wind this week is blowing directly through the Bronx, directly through her hair, directly through Grow Good Beauty's sales numbers, and directly away from Offset's camp. Every silent phone call Offset makes to a former collaborator right now is being ignored. Every industry event he shows up at is a little quieter than the last one. That is what the wind sounds like when it turns. And let me say this too, because it needs to be said out loud on a public platform. She raising her daughters in the spotlight while going through this divorce takes a kind of courage that most people watching cannot fully appreciate unless they have been in a similar position themselves. Cardi B is doing the school pickups. The Bronx star is doing the doctor's appointments. She is doing the nighttime rituals. The Bronx star is doing the birthday parties. She is doing all of it while running a hair care company, recording an album, and dodging vlogs. Every mother watching this understands what that workload looks like on a normal day. Now add public scrutiny. Now add court documents. Now add a spouse who is publicly reaching for more than what was offered. That is what she has been carrying, and Cardi B has been carrying it in heels. So drop me a comment and tell me what you think about all of this. Was her just promoting the hairline, or was the Bronx star sending a message? Was the rain a coincidence, or was the rain the whole point of the location scout? Do you think Offset is going to respond, or is Offset finally going to learn to sit down and stop talking? Was the $10 million rumor real? And if it was, is he currently in the worst regret spiral of his entire career? Who is she really talking to when she said, "I got you"? Do you think the new man is going to last, or is he a placeholder? Do you think the album coming next is going to be the biggest of her career? Let me know. Because I am reading every single one of these comments, and I've got a follow-up video coming that's going to break down the new man and her life piece by piece, receipt by receipt, DUI paperwork included, custody drama highlighted. And I want you locked in for that one. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you've hit that bell, make sure you're rocking with me for the next chapter of this story. Because this story? Sweetheart, this story is just getting started, and I'm not going anywhere. And neither is she. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.